What you're about to hear is a story of love, trust, and the kind of betrayal that doesn't just break hearts, it shatters lives. It's a tale where every smile hides a secret and every silence holds more weight than words. One couple's marriage was built on second chances, but when old wounds met new lies, the fallout was more devastating than anyone could have imagined. This isn't just about cheating. It's about pride, payback, and the split-second moment where anger becomes irreversible. Subscribe to True Crimes Altar, where every sin is punished, every betrayal has a cost, and every soul must answer to the truth. Like, comment, because these are the stories the guilty prayed would stay buried. Nia returned from Barbados looking like she'd brought back more than just souvenirs. Her complexion glowed like sun-warmed caramel. Fresh, knotless braids framed her face perfectly, and she carried herself with an effortless joy that didn't seem to need anyone's permission. Her laugh was louder now, her music a touch higher in volume, and the sway in her hips still carried that slow, hypnotic island rhythm. Even her walk was different, looser, lighter, like something inside her had been unlocked. And her husband, Lionel Price, took notice. He always did. Not because he was overly suspicious, but because he knew her habits, her moods, the way she chewed the inside of her cheek when she wasn't telling the whole truth. And now, the same woman who used to doze off halfway through a Netflix movie was staying up late, grinning at her phone, tilting the screen just enough so he couldn't see. "Just me and Renee laughing," she told him one night when he asked. He nodded, kept quiet, but somewhere deep in his gut, something began to whisper. Renee Foster had been Nia's ride or die since their nursing school days, outspoken, fiercely loyal, and always 2 glasses of wine ahead of the party. Lionel never had much of an issue with her, until that night. Nia was in the living room, a glass of Moscato in one hand, her phone on speaker as she giggled like she was back in her early 20s. Lionel was just down the hall, tightening a loose screw on the thermostat, out of sight but close enough to hear every word. "Girl," Renee laughed, "I still can't believe your knees gave out like that after the second massage. That man had you speaking a whole different language." Nia snorted. "Please, don't remind me. I almost had to crawl back to the resort. Thought I was gonna need rehab." Their laughter overlapped, carefree and unbothered. Lionel froze where he stood, screwdriver in hand. The words pulsed in his chest. Massage, second, knees. The feeling wasn't in his head. It was in his stomach, that old, heavy ache that told you something was happening behind your back while you were out here trying to hold the family together. He walked into the kitchen as if he hadn't heard a thing, kissed her cheek when he passed. She smiled at him like everything was fine. But it wasn't. He didn't know the details yet, but one thing was clear. Whatever this was, it had already begun. Betrayal doesn't always come crashing through the door. Sometimes it just sits quiet in the back of your mind, waiting for the right moment to move. Lionel remembered her first Barbados trip like it was yesterday. That had been a year earlier. Nia went with a different group of friends then, other nurses she used to work with. She'd called it a self-care getaway. A few days of rum cocktails, ocean views, and spa treatments. He hadn't questioned it. Back then, life was smooth. Bills paid, their 2 daughters doing well in school, Sunday dinners at her mother's house. He kissed her goodbye at the airport, told her to have fun, and met her at arrivals 4 days later with flowers in hand. She came back tanned, a little tired, but glowing. She raved about the food, the music, the beach, everything except the people she'd met. He didn't think much of it then. But now, in hindsight, that stood out. 2 weeks after that trip, Lionel started feeling off. It began with a strange itch, then a burning that made him wince every time he used the bathroom. He knew what it was before he even got to the doctor. The test confirmed it, chlamydia. One round of antibiotics cleared it up, but the real wound wasn't physical, it was mental. When he brought it up to Nia, his voice was low, almost embarrassed. She looked at him like he was speaking a foreign language. "Me? No, that's gotta be something else." She swore she hadn't been with anyone else, suggested maybe he'd gotten it from a public restroom or some mix-up at the clinic. "You know these doctors don't always get it right," she said, brushing it off like lint from her shirt. He wanted to believe her. He hadn't been perfect when they first got together. He'd made mistakes. Maybe this was karma. So he told himself to let it go. But now, after hearing that call, after watching her laugh like that, those old doubts came rushing back with a heat that burned through every vein. What if she'd lied then? What if the STD wasn't random at all, but a receipt? That night, Lionel sat in his car parked outside their house, engine off, gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles went pale. Inside, their daughters were asleep. Nia was home, and all he could hear in his head was her voice from a year ago saying, "Baby, it's nothing. You probably caught it somewhere else." But he knew better now. It was an ordinary Wednesday evening when Lionel's phone lit up with a message from someone he hadn't heard from in months. Renee Foster, Nia's closest friend. Loud, quick-witted, always at the center of every laugh. Now she was sliding into his inbox like a shadow creeping in. At first, he thought maybe she'd meant to send something to Nia. But when he opened the thread, his chest went tight. 3 videos. No greeting, no small talk. Just a short message beneath them. "I used to think you knew the person you married. Guess not." Lionel sat back on the couch, the phone trembling slightly in his hand. He didn't press play right away. He just stared at the frozen thumbnails, each one like a dare. Finally, he tapped the first. The screen filled with the image of a hotel room, soft lamplight, crisp white sheets, and Nia, clear as day, perched in the lap of a man with thick, shoulder-length locks, wearing nothing but boxers. She was wrapped in a satin robe, loosely tied, her braids spilling down her back. She laughed, kissed his neck, and rolled her hips in slow rhythm. Lionel's throat went dry. He watched it twice, just to be sure it wasn't some cruel look-alike. But it was her, her laugh, her way of leaning in like she owned the moment. He tapped the second clip. Same hotel room. Different man. This one wore a gold chain and had tattoos spread across his chest. Nia sat beside him on the bed, rubbing oil into his shoulders, murmuring something he couldn't hear. Then, without hesitation, she swung a leg over his lap. The familiarity between them was like watching someone's second date, not their first. Lionel paused, elbows resting on his knees, the phone hanging loosely from his fingers. His pulse pounded in his ears. He didn't even want to see the third video. Something in him knew it would be worse. He tapped it anyway. This one was clearly at the resort spa. The white walls, the tiled floor. Nia was lying face down on a massage table, a towel barely covering her. A tall, muscular therapist worked his way up her thighs slowly. She moaned, turned her head toward him, and said, "Don't stop, baby. Go lower." The towel slipped away. She didn't move to fix it. Lionel slammed the phone, face down, on the table. His breath came in short bursts. His skin felt hot. He stood, pacing the living room, opening the fridge, closing it again. Nothing made sense. Nothing felt real. When he finally picked the phone back up, his eyes went to Renee's message again. "I used to think you knew the person you married. Guess not." His reply was short. "Why would you send this to me?" The answer came fast. "Because she ran her mouth. Told me I was jealous. Said she was just having fun and needed it. So, you might as well know who you're living with." Lionel read it 3 times. This wasn't just infidelity. This was arrogance wrapped in deceit. She hadn't stumbled into a mistake. She had chosen it, lived in it, boasted about it. And Renee, the best friend, had held on to this truth until a falling out pushed her to reveal it. He sank onto the couch, head in his hands. 3 videos, 3 different men. No remorse, no apology, just laughter, moans, and lies. Hours passed with him sitting there in the dark, those clips replaying in his mind until they stopped looking like strangers and started feeling like stolen pieces of his own life. The worst part? She'd come home after each encounter as if nothing had happened, kissed him, hugged their girls, climbed into bed beside him. And all that time, she knew. Now, so did he. Lionel didn't say a word that night, didn't throw her phone or storm into the bedroom. He just sat there, staring at the ceiling, listening to her soft breathing from the other side of the wall, wondering how someone could sleep that peacefully after doing something so loud. By morning, Nia was moving around like it was any other day. She brewed coffee, played soft gospel music on her phone, and slipped into her scrubs, pulling her braids into a neat bun. She looked beautiful, confident, The same woman he'd married, yet somehow not the same at all. She was almost out the door when Lionel finally spoke. "You got something you want to tell me?" She froze with her keys in hand, turning slowly. "What's that supposed to mean?" He stood in the hallway, arms folded, phone in hand. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of what he already knew. "Renee sent me the videos." Her expression didn't change. Not a flinch, not a blink. "Oh," was all she said. "Oh." He stepped forward. "3 of them, Nia. Not one accident, not one bad decision. 3. She exhaled sharply through her nose, set her purse on the counter like she didn't have time for this. "It was just fun." His eyebrows lifted. "Fun?" "Yeah, a massage. A little play. I didn't catch feelings. It wasn't that deep." Lionel's voice sharpened. "You were straddling men in hotel rooms and moaning in spas. That's not a massage." "And that's none of your business," she cut in, her tone cold and steady. "What I did was for me. I needed to feel something. Needed to remember I'm still young, still wanted." His jaw clenched. "So you throw away your family for attention?" She rolled her eyes. "Don't start acting brand new, Lionel. You forget who cheated first? You think I forgot about Crystal from the shop? Or that girl you swore was your cousin back when we were dating? You broke that trust first. I just moved past it." She looked at him like he was the one who owed her something. "Let it go." The words cut through him like glass. "Let it go?" He repeated quietly. "You think it's the same? I made mistakes, yeah, but I never brought home videos. Never gave you a disease." Her eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "That STD last year," he said. "I let it slide, believed your story about the clinic or a toilet seat. But now I know better." She let out a short laugh. "You're still on that? I told you that wasn't me." "You were in Barbados that first time," he said flatly. "Came back 2 weeks later, and I caught something. And now I see who you really were down there." She looked away, her jaw tightening, the coffee mug in her hand trembling just slightly. Lionel stepped closer. "Tell the truth, Nia. Did you cheat that first trip too?" She didn't answer. Didn't nod. Didn't shake her head. Just sipped her coffee like the room wasn't caving in. That silence told him everything. His hands curled into fists, not from rage, but from that deep, raw kind of hurt that twists in your chest when someone you love spits in your face with a smile. "You could have told me," he said quietly. "I might have worked through it. I might have forgiven you. But you came home, kissed our daughters, slept in our bed, and lied to me twice." Nia finally set her mug down and met his gaze. "I'm not perfect. You knew that. But you've always acted like you were. And if we're digging up dirt, yours doesn't smell like roses either." That was it. She didn't care. Not about the pain, the risk, or what it might cost them. And for the first time in years, Lionel saw her not as the woman he loved, but as someone who'd let go of him long before today. She picked up her purse, grabbed her keys. "I've got a double shift," she said, and walked out the door. A full week passed after that confrontation, 7 long days of pretending. Pretending they were still partners. Pretending the air in the house wasn't thick with unspoken things. Pretending the walls didn't feel like they were closing in a little more each night. Lionel tried to swallow it down, bury it under routine. But the taste of it kept rising back up. The images, her laughter, her shrug, the words "let it go" playing on repeat in his head. That particular morning, the girls were already at school, their backpacks still hanging neatly by the door, cereal bowls rinsed in the sink. The silence in the house felt heavy. Lionel stepped into their bedroom and found Nia packing a weekend bag. Her scrubs were folded neatly, her makeup kit zipped, the strap of a lacy bra peeking from beneath a stack of clothes. "Work trip?" he asked, leaning against the doorway. She didn't look up. "Double shift. I'll crash in the nurse's lounge between rounds. Less driving." He watched her zip the bag. "You going back to him?" She stopped mid-motion. "Back to who? The one from the spa? The one in the hotel room? Or maybe the one with the tattoos? Take your pick. I've seen all 3 now." Nia rolled her eyes. Still with that? Lionel stepped inside the room. You gave me something, Nia, and then lied about it. Sat next to me at the clinic and blamed it on a toilet seat. She crossed her arms. And yet, you're still here. It hit like a slap. His chest rose and fell slowly. You think this is about staying? It's about the truth, about the fact you dragged me through your dirt and dared me to complain about the stains. She scoffed. Oh, please. You want a medal for being faithful for 9 years after the mess you made when we first got together? Don't make me laugh. He stepped closer. I told you I was wrong back then. You forgave me, or so I thought. Yeah, and I thought you were man enough to take what you dished out. She grabbed her bag and started past him, but he blocked the doorway. Move, Lionel. No, not this time. His tone was calm, but there was something cracked and dangerous beneath it. She sighed, set the bag down hard. You want to fight? Fine. Yeah, I cheated twice. So what? I didn't love them. I didn't plan it. I came back home every time. You think you're some saint because you didn't record yours? You think you're better than me. I was better than this, he said low. Better than smiling in someone's face and lying to them for a whole year. Her voice rose. I did what I had to do to feel alive, Lionel. This house, these kids, this job, it's drowning me. And you just sit there with your quiet little routines like that's love. His eyes locked on hers. It was love, until you killed it. The silence that fell was thick, suffocating. Then she lit the final match. You're so broken over me getting mine, but you never asked yourself why I had to go get it. Maybe you were the problem. Lionel's gaze shifted, and then he saw it. A ceramic vase on the hallway table, a gift from her aunt. Decorative, useless, just filling space. He didn't plan it. His hand moved before his mind caught up. One swing, one sound. A sickening crack that seemed to stop the air in the room. Nia's body crumpled to the carpet, the vase shattering in his grip. A shard sliced his thumb, but he didn't feel it. He stared down at her, still, unmoving. Blood spread slowly into the fibers of the rug. His breath came fast, shallow. He dropped the jagged piece and stumbled back like he'd been jolted awake from a nightmare. Her eyes were open, wide in shock, mouth parted like she had one last word she'd never get to say. He didn't run, didn't try to clean up. He just walked to the living room, picked up the phone, and dialed 911. My wife, he said, voice hollow. I think I heard her bad. The dispatcher kept speaking, but Lionel barely heard a word. He sat on the front steps, hands sticky with blood, staring into nothing. When the sirens grew louder, he didn't flinch. Neighbors began stepping out onto their porches, murmuring to one another. But Lionel just waited for whatever came next. The school bus pulled up minutes later. His daughter stepped off, stopping short when they saw the flashing red and blue lights bouncing off the front windows. An ambulance idled at the curb, its back doors open. Patrol cars lined the street, and their father was sitting on the steps in handcuffs, his head bowed, shirt streaked with blood. The oldest tried to run toward the house, but an officer stopped her gently at the porch. The youngest burst into tears, clinging to a neighbor who had rushed over. Inside, paramedics worked quickly, voices low but tense. Blood had soaked deep into the carpet. Nia's breathing was shallow, almost non-existent. They lifted her onto a stretcher and wheeled her out. One of the medics gave a slow shake of his head before shutting the ambulance doors. Lionel didn't say a word when they led him to the cruiser. Didn't speak when the girls called out for him. Just silence. At the hospital, doctors found severe head trauma, fractured skull, internal bleeding, swelling in her brain. Machines took over where her body couldn't. She didn't wake up that day, or the next, or the one after. The word the doctors used was coma. The word they avoided was if she'd come back, if she'd remember, if she'd be the same. Her mother stayed by her bedside around the clock. The girls visited once, but couldn't stop crying. They drew pictures, hearts, rainbows, and taped them to the wall beside her. Across town, Lionel sat in a holding cell, playing the moment over and over in his mind. The swing, the sound, the stillness. No more arguments. No more lies. Just a silence that didn't heal. His bail was set at $1 million. His public defender told him to say little and appear remorseful. The case against him was strong, and every day Nia remained in that bed, suspended somewhere between living and gone. The girls stayed with Lionel's mother. She picked them up the day the chaos unfolded, made them something hot to eat, held them until they stopped crying. The youngest still asked when Mama was coming home. No one had the heart to answer. Renee, the so-called best friend, hadn't stepped foot in the hospital since Nia was admitted. She told a coworker she wished she'd never sent the videos. "I just wanted him to know the truth," she whispered one night, tears gathering in her eyes. "I didn't think he'd lose control like that." She sat in her car afterward, keys in the ignition, staring at the dark road ahead. Because the truth was, once it came too late, nobody won. Lionel's trial was still weeks away, but the neighborhood had already picked sides. Conversations in barbershops and grocery store lines carried his name. Some blamed Nia, others blamed Lionel. Most just shook their heads and called it a shame. Meanwhile, time kept moving. The girls kept growing. Nia's hospital bed stayed occupied. And Lionel sat in his cell, not only waiting for court, but for something bigger, maybe justice, maybe just a scrap of peace. A love story built on second chances had been dismantled by secrets, silence, and one choice made in a moment that could never be undone. Was it her betrayal that broke him? Or had the breaking been there all along, waiting for a reason to show itself? We want to hear your thoughts. Was Lionel a victim pushed too far, or did he cross a line no amount of hurt could ever justify? Drop your opinions in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story. And let us know, where in the world are you watching from right now?